every single person in your business should be evangelising your business to their peer group.
So what businesses getting wrong when they hire and onboard?
They hire fireworks.
Hire fireworks?
Yeah. So a firework, and this is often in sales more than anything else, a firework is an absolute...
How do we make recruitment easy? So like if someone's listening, they're a service-based business and say they're a small business, so they're between 1 and 5 people. They're probably thinking, why the hell is any great employee, any great candidate going to want to work in my company when they could go and work in all these bigger companies? There's 1 to 5 of us.
Yeah. So you need 3 to 6 months money in the bank to run a good startup, because then you can take good tactical decisions, not reactive decisions to cover the bills, because that's a downward death spiral.
When I talk to a lot of SME or micro business owners, there is that kind of like, well, I'm not a big business, I'm not attractive. But realising that there's people that want to come and join a small, scrappy startup. It made me nervous now.
You hook, and they then leave, then you failed, because you haven't made the environment consistently attractive enough for them to stay and be part of something.
That kind of scares me though, because it's like, James, thank you for making the trip.
Pleasure.
My first question, in understanding your career, obviously I know a little bit about it, but all your knowledge that you've acquired over your years, who is it most helpful for? What type of businesses?
I think small to medium-sized enterprises that are going on a journey. Now, hopefully that's a progressively up journey, but sometimes it's an owner who's set up and then wants to exit the business, hand it over to the next generation, or merge or sell to another business. But generally it's clients that are on a trajectory. Yeah. They want to get from A to B, don't know the exact path, and just need that external sounding board to stress test ideas. Someone who isn't so focused directly in the business on a day-to-day basis.
Get you. So can you give me a quick overview of sort of your career? What's your first business, how that started, and then where it's progressed to where you're... when I met you, I remember it was like kind of going around the table, people introducing themselves, and it was like, hi, I'm so-and-so, the director of this company, I'm director of this company. You stood up and it was like, okay, I'm director of this company, I'm non-exec on this one, non-exec. So where did it all begin, and how did it get to where it is today?
So where did it all begin? It all began with the Royal Navy. I started doing that because I decided I didn't want to go to university. So I went to Dartmouth instead as an officer trainee. I had a great few years playing around in the Navy. And then I decided I needed to sort of grow up and get a proper job. So then I went to work in a talent-focused consultancy in the city. And I joined as a very junior little coffee maker at the bottom, and 3 months later I was the MD, not through my knowledge of their industry, but through my knowledge of process, and their business was in a shocking state internally in how it ran. So basically the owner handed it over to me to sort it out.
And that's based on being in the army and all of the process.
In the Navy, yeah, absolutely.
Navy,
and just it's just stuff that seems blindly obvious to me, but wasn't to them at the time. And then I went on to various other boutiques, took over boutiques, got involved in a venture capital startup, got involved in a PLC, ran my own shop for a while. And then about 7 years ago decided I'd had enough of just sort of managing people, because I like doing stuff with the clients. So then I got rid of the London business and basically set up on my own effectively and looked for interesting opportunities to get involved. So I described myself as a chairman, a chief exec and a non-exec of a range of businesses, some of which I own, some of which I don't. And that's the easiest way to categorise it. And it's across software and technology through to media, and then the sort of the talent management consulting business as well.
So where you said you started up on your own, so is JCM Advisors?
That's JCM Advisors.
Yeah, so before that, were they all employed roles?
Yes, up to that point, so that's when I took a sort of strategic shift, lifestyle rebalance, what do I actually want to be doing with my time? And I actually found that I was able to work a lot harder and be more effective when I wasn't spending all of my day sitting in an office surrounded by people asking me questions all day.
Okay, that's where you set up the advisory. So what made you want to take that leap? And you said, obviously you realised you could be more effective, but you'd only been employed up to that point and been part of the Navy. So a very structured routine of here's how you do what you do kind of thing. And obviously on those roles as they evolved, you were starting to become more and more advisory, it sounds like. Yes. But at some point it went from I'm advising people as an employee to then becoming a business owner. So what kind of went through your mind to make that change?
I think, well, I've been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I'd seen lots of different types of business owners. And I'd been a business owner of a large sort of consultancy business that I'd taken over. And I just looked at my workload and what I actually did and what I spent time doing and what I enjoy doing. And let's face it, people do better work when they enjoy what they're doing.
True.
And I wouldn't say that I'm the best steady state manager at all of a business. I get bored quite easily. So running a business is fine, I can do it without a problem. But I'm more of an ideas person and more strategic and more, let's go somewhere, let's change something, let's do something different to everybody else. And that's how, when I had small firms, we were competing against the largest global players because we were that difference. So it wasn't as much of a strategic shift as you might think. I just wasn't responsible for lots of people. And I had a network of people around me who'd worked for me over the years, worked with me over the years, and who'd also gone freelance or independent, whatever you want to call it. And they're always still available, right? So those business connections, I've had business connections now going back 30 years, and we still talk regularly, and we help each other out on projects, and we work together and all the rest of it. So whilst it looks like a very big strategic shift, it actually wasn't that much. And what it did was free up my headspace and time to then start looking at what I wanted to do. And I had some capital available. There were some investments I wanted to make. And the way I tend to do that is to get involved in a business as a non-exec or an advisor, have a look at it, and then buy into it if I feel that the fit is there. And that's what happened with Broadnet.
Okay.
So I was actually using Broadnet as a customer.
Yeah.
And then they asked me to get involved because those guys were very technical, very passionate. They built amazing products, but I had absolutely no idea how to put that to the market properly. So I came in and they said, look, do you want to come as a non-exec? And I had a look at it and I thought, no, that's not going to work. I need to be able to pull the levers. So I'm a very executive non-exec in that sense. I said, no, tell you what, let me buy the company and we'll do that. And that's how we did Broadnet and turned it around into to what it is today.
So in that was, you were a customer,
Yep.
and you were paying to use it, and obviously got a good experience from that. And
It's
then,
the Victor Kiam experience. I like the product so much I bought the company.
fair enough.
If you remember, you're probably not old enough to remember Victor Kiam, the Remington razor guy.
No.
No. So Victor Kiam, a famous American businessman, his catchphrase was always, "I like the company so much, I like the product so much, I bought the company."
Okay.
And so yeah, you can Google Victor Kiam later. He's a character.
I will.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how it works. So you were paying them, you were a customer,
Yeah.
liked it so much, and then through that relationship got to know the owners
Yeah.
or owner, and looked at, could you help advise them, but you didn't like the idea of that. You didn't like the idea of that because you felt like you needed more control to have...
Exactly that. So
Yeah.
a good non-exec shouldn't be pulling the levers.
Yeah.
Now, I'm probably a terrible non-exec because I tend to pull the levers anyway.
Yeah.
But technically, no, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be getting the guys and the girls on the ground to do that. But I knew with the characters that were involved in that business that they needed some strategic leadership, and they basically need to be told what to do every day to get them focused, and then they'd be fine.
So did you buy 100% of it, or did you buy...
No, I bought it with a business partner, so we bought a controlling interest.
Okay.
So I only tend to get involved where I can get a controlling interest. Otherwise, it just leads to someone needs to be able to make a decision and say, I've heard you, but we are doing it this way.
Okay, controlling interest, define that.
51% of the shares.
Okay.
Effectively,
Yeah.
major shareholder.
Yeah, okay. So that original owner obviously sold off 51%, and so...
Yeah, so with the three original owners, we bought one out entirely and then took a stake of the other two people. So, and they're all still in the business.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Like, to me, that feels like such a strange arrangement to have a business that you start and then someone comes along and then they become the major shareholder and then you're the minor shareholder in that.
Yeah, but 100% of a company turning over 20,000.
Oh, yeah.
Or 7% of a company turning over $750,000. Which would you rather have?
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're not capable of taking that step up to the $750,000 point, but someone else is. And if you look at any major tech startup, or any big company startup for that matter, how much do the founders still own?
Oh, tiny
Like what percentage does Zuck own of Facebook these days compared to when he founded it as a 100% shareholder? Same with Google and Alphabet and all the rest of it. So there comes a time, if you really are going for the clouds and you really want to grow, you are going to have to give up that controlling stake at some point. So it's how you structure that. And that's all about getting on board with the right investors and the people that you know are going to add value. And the guys at Broad now, I mean, they've made a fortune, which they wouldn't have done. I mean, they were just hemorrhaging cash. They were losing cash every month. So it's been great for them. They get to play with their train sets still. And these days, it's light touch for me. It's I had a meeting today. I'm Broad now, which is why I'm wearing this shirt. But that's the first one I've done for a long time. I check in with them a couple of times a week. So whilst I am the CEO, I'm a very light touch CEO, if that makes sense.
So you said you like to pull the levers, so you don't like to really be a non-exec director. You like to be hands-on. So talk to me about the levers you're pulling and where, like, what is your skill set around that? Because there's a whole, like, in a business, there's marketing, there's sales, there's ops, there's finance, there's HR, there's the people, and obviously a lot of your background's around people. So what are them? And before we start recording, you sort of said like you had your kind of expertise and it's broadened out just with experience in business. So talk me through a bit about pulling the levers and what that looks like.
So ideally it's around influencing, right? So ideally you want to educate the people in the business so that they make the decisions and you support them in that. So that's about building a relationship. As it is in any business, it's about relationships, it's about communication. It's explaining where you want to go, why you want to get there, and why you don't want to go down path A as opposed to path B. And that really only comes from experience. So you can have all the MBAs in the world. That doesn't help you on the ground. Okay. So when I say I pull a lever, I influence so that someone makes the right decision for the business. And they can see why they're making that decision as well. So it is two-way communication. It's getting their ideas, it's refining them, etc. So with one of my other clients, where I'm purely a non-exec advisor, I don't technically get to pull any lever, but things happen the way I want them to happen. And that's just around explaining it, explaining the purpose, setting the goals, explaining how we won't achieve the goals if we don't do these steps and put these steps in place. And it all comes down to having the right people, right? You surround yourself with better people than yourself, ideally. And if you can do that, you have an easy ride as a business person.
Okay. Are you happy to trial a real-life example of what that could look like? If I give an example, like how you would pull the levers and what questions you would ask.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what...
I've got an example.
Go on then.
I'm going to use myself.
Absolutely. Okay, fair enough.
So we went and grabbed lunch, however long ago, like a few weeks back, and had a great conversation. And that was quite funny actually, because you gave me the location, and I was like, what a random place to go and grab lunch. And then pull up and realise you're non-exec there, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I was like, obviously. And lovely place, it's Roos.
Yeah, Reuters, the Lost Gardens of Seven Oaks.
Yeah. Is it Reuters?
Reuters, yeah, but it used to be spelt with an ERZ, but in the war they got a bit funny about the name. So
I've been saying it wrong the whole time.
Anglicised it.
Okay, so with Pink Panda right now, as you know a bit, so like the whole concept is I'm doing marketing strategy consults and had the content packages, but I'm getting rid of those to do a full retainer, to become the full marketing division. And that's all going really well, so I'm building a team. And what I've worked out is I want to have a marketing manager / BDM, so they're going to be client-facing, a lot of sales involved in it, but then also managing a team, so they're the point of contact. And then have a web-based person and a content socials-based person. So web-based person doing all the web assets, content, socials person doing all the social contents. So the idea is that the BDM marketing manager is kind of the link between those two doing their work and the client in understanding what does the marketing need to achieve. So in that, my method is I'm hiring the web-based person, just looking to find someone that will start freelance, test the relationship, and then become a full-time employee. Content person, because it's what I do day to day, and I know it, I'm looking for an apprentice so I can take them and train them up. Whereas the web person, I need them to be skilled straight away. And then the BDM marketing manager, I'm thinking, I don't necessarily want someone that's got a lot of experience. I want someone that's just a real good people person and wants to be obsessed with marketing and building a business, but doesn't want to start their own, but just loves the idea of really getting involved in the sales process. But if they've got experience, brilliant. So I've been debating, I was starting to look for the apprentice and the web-based person, thinking I'd get those and then bring the manager on board later. But I've kind of flipped my mind recently where I think, no, if I could bring the marketing manager on straight away, between us, we could build up the waiting list for this retainer, and then we could be doing the consults together, and maybe eventually they're doing the consults and I focus on the hiring. But then if they're going to be leading the team, then I can have them involved in that decision.
Yes.
So the idea that in the new year, the web person and socials person sort of start coming on board end of year, start of the new year, and then eventually sort of between January and March, work it all out. So they all go full time, and we start building this retainer. Okay. So that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment. Do you agree with that process? And how would you, like, I'm thinking take people on, test it freelance and just a little bit here and there, see how we get on, and then start full time. But
yeah, and I think that's not a bad way to do it. I think.
Right, I'm interrupting this conversation just because I want to talk to you about one of the sponsors, which I love and get to use every week of my life, and that is Dragon Co-working. This podcast is sponsored by Dragon, and it's also recorded here mostly, depending where the guest is. And I just want to tell you the story of why I work at Dragon. Now, I knew of Dragon like a couple of years before I started working here, and in my first company I was like, oh, I love this place. Wouldn't it be cool to one day be working here and have an office and whatnot? And sure enough, when I started Pink Panda, I joined Dragon. Just one, because of the culture just drew me in. The type of people that are here, the camaraderie of it, the culture of it just really drew me in. So a great place to work. But there's two key things that it's helped me with. One is loneliness. Like as a solo founder, when I started Pink Panda just being completely on my own, it helped to come to a place where you're not like, obviously you haven't got a clock in and clock out, it's not a job, but like I'm running my business and having a co-working space. But the key thing was having people I could interact with on a regular basis and actually build like a sense of a community, like especially like come lunchtime, you're sitting around with a whole group of people and then you've got people to like work with, collaborate and pass ideas between. Which leads me on to the second benefit, and that was problem solving. So I actually had an issue with a piece of content I was producing and it was on the audio and I just wasn't sure how to fix it. And thought, surely someone here knows. And sure enough, by the time I asked 3 or 4 people, someone was actually like, oh yeah, I know a way that you can fix that audio problem. Boom, done, they fixed it for me. So that is a huge benefit. That just instantly made it worthwhile being here, like from a financial perspective. So that's Dragon Co-working. If you want to experience Dragon for yourself, come along, you can have a day pass and experience it for yourself. Back to the podcast.
Bringing in your key people has to be your primary
scares
focus.
Me.
Oh, of course it's scary.
Yeah.
Because you start becoming responsible for people's mortgages and things like that. And people forget that. Business owners always think, oh, the weight's on my shoulders.
Oh no, I felt acutely aware that I was responsible for mortgages, rent, feeding families and all that stuff.
So it is key. I would agree to bring in your manager first and have them intimately involved in building up the team, because you're going to set the culture of the business. You're going to hire a manager that has similar cultural values to yourself. Not the same as yourself, but they're going to have cultural alignment. And that's then going to set the tone. And it's important that they are involved in bringing in the more junior people, because they're the people that are going to interact with this manager most of the time as you step up and then build in beneath you. So that's the ideal way. However, having said that, if the ideal person comes along at the more junior level, then you should grab them. And yes, it's harder work and more difficult, but you should absolutely grab them because talent is rare, right? Good talent is rare. I wholeheartedly agree with the trialing period, if that makes sense. It's good for them if they're in a financial position to do it. And it's good for you because obviously you really get to know each other before you make that commitment decision. So that's, if you can do that, that's a great way to do it, for sure.
Yeah. Now you've made me think actually, like I started painting the picture of, imagine bringing on the 2 like junior or whatever people that are sort of in the operations and then a manager. I'm thinking, imagine bringing those 2 on and saying, right, here's the manager that's going to come in and manage you. Whereas compared to bringing the manager, we work together and then we together bring on a team.
Exactly.
Makes a lot more sense. And I think the thing that I feel so fortunate in having Pink Panda that's based in marketing compared to my garden company is it's so much easier to just trial the relationship with people, because it is just something where you can say, look, we can just start by grabbing lunch and have a conversation, and then you can just do whenever you're free. If you've got an hour here, half a day there, we can just do bits and you can get paid for that. Whereas garden company, it was like they were full-time employed, and it's like, we'll give them a trial shift and then they've got to kind of quit and come on board full-time, and then we're testing the relationship.
Yeah, because it's a very different market, isn't it? The Pink Panda's operating in. It's a much more freelance-orientated market. And that's both a blessing and a curse. So it's a blessing in that, yes, you get to try these people out, you get to build a relationship. The challenge is then retaining them and building the model that gets them to emotionally buy into the company. And that's not about salary. That's not about cash reward. That's around you being the best place to work. And they want to work with you because you're you. And you want to work with them because they're them. And you've got a confluence of ideas that work, and 1 + 1 = 4 as opposed to 2. But you've got to lock those people in and get them on board with the journey.
And is that your employer brand?
That is your employer brand. It's a large part of it. So employer brand starts when you first recruit someone, because that sets the tone of your relationship. And then you just have to stick to your values and be core to those values. So a lot of companies they'll have a little, here's our corporate values. And it's a sticker on the wall, right? It's a poster. You've got to actually live it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what those values are, right? You could be an arms dealer. That doesn't matter as long as everyone going into your business knows you're an arms dealer. Because you will attract the right sort of people, not the wrong sort of people. So it doesn't matter how good a person is. If they don't align with you culturally, they are the wrong person for your business. However technically qualified they are, however competent they are, because ultimately the relationship will fail if you don't see the world in the same sort of way. Not identically, but certainly in the same sort of way.
Yeah, and that's what I think along the lines of like hiring and trying to find someone and build a team is. So I've got I call it my guiding principles, and it's not just specific to Pink Panda. It's just like my life guiding principles when it comes to business. Every business I'll have is based on these guiding principles, and a lot of them are based on efficiency, and there's things based on like your chance of existence, things based on my philosophy in the world and everything, and what I want to do in the world. And so that's what I'm hoping will be more why people want to work and be part of the company, and why they would hopefully stick around, because they believe in it and we get along. And I'm trying to think, I need to, in my mind, I need to hire someone that I think I can really get along with. And it's like, you're going to spend a lot of time with them, like day after day. But also the next people you hire are going to be spending time with them day after day. So if I don't like the idea of spending that amount of time with them, I can't expect to hire more people to spend that amount of time.
Yes. But also a word of caution there. So people hire people they think will be the mates.
I don't want a friend.
And that's the thing.
Working relationship.
You don't want friends. You want a working relationship.
Yeah.
I think companies become very insular when they all go every night down the pub and they're all friends, and it's okay, but ultimately it won't lead to a medium-sized enterprise. It'll stay a small enterprise.
So my thoughts on Pink Panda is I've got this vision of, I've been building out my organisational chart recently, and I've done one for what I want it to look like in 12 months, where I've got these 3 people, and that's what the team, and then I've got a couple of freelancers supporting. And then I've got one for in 3 years, where it's a team of 12 of us, there's a managing director, and then I think it's 2 managers, and then they're managing multiple teams each, with them freelancers supporting. And so at that point, I kind of like, that's probably where I would take Pink Panda to, because it's like a team of 12. Like a team of 12, you kind of, a dozen there where you can have a team meeting and you can kind of discuss. But if you go beyond 12, you start maybe 10, maybe 12. But once you kind of go beyond that, you start like breaking into groups and it becomes harder to meet. Do you agree? Or
yes and no, it depends how you set it up. So small companies that over-engineer themselves do themselves a favour in the long term. Because the hardest transition for a business is small to medium. Small is 1 to 5, in my view. Less than 1% of the companies in the UK. 99% of companies in the UK, less than 1% have more than 5 employees. Right?
Yeah, I remember learning that recently.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Going from small to medium is very, very difficult if you haven't put in place the organisational structure. If you've got the right organisational structure, it just multiplies out, because the principals of each of your teams are people like you with your values. And so you're managing initially a team of 3, right? Then you're managing a team of 3 managers who are managing teams of 3. And it goes up like that. So you can maintain that culture and you can grow it. But equally, you might be presenting an opportunity for someone in the future. You say, look, I want to grow it to 12 people. And that's what you communicate to people when you bring them into the organisation. If in 3 years' time you want to take it somewhere else, I'll step back. You can take it over and grow it to what you want. So never cut off that opportunity, but be absolutely clear about where you want to take it personally and the size. But you see, one big contract can change. Suddenly you don't need a team of 12, you need a team of 36 just to service one client.
Yeah.
So that's why you engineer it at the early stages, so it can just multiply out.
Yeah, that's what I try to do, and like that's my love, my passion is just business systems and looking at how something can just run itself and grow itself. And so that's why I kind of, when I think of the org charts I've drawn out, is the one for 12 months time it's Pink Panda running itself as like a little boutique business, but then the 3-year vision is a company that's growing itself, where, as I say, like there's a managing director, there's a couple managers. So that's mini C-suite team,
Yeah.
like growing it.
And you might not be the managing director at that point.
No, well, I don't intend on being a managing director.
So one of my old contacts, he ran a very successful recruitment business.
Yeah.
I think it grew to about 40 people, turnover of about 10 million a year. He recognised very early on that he wasn't the person to lead the business on a day-to-day basis. So he employed a managing director, and he went back to the floor as a consultant. And the business grew, and then eventually sold to one of the big groups. So whilst he was the 100% shareholder, operationally day to day, he was not running the business.
He was an employee in the business.
He was an employee in the business. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that worked.
I think I'm like similar to what you alluded of, like love ideas and throwing it around and kind of. I feel like I'm learning to hone the skill in it. Like my skills are definitely in marketing and people. I think I'm really good at drawing clients in and knowing how to build a system that draws people in and then looks after them when it comes to clients. And I'm getting better at it with a team. But what I really want to hone my skill is into finding really talented, skilled people that just need the support and need to be connected with the other talented people to then go, right, we become a company, whether they've got equity or not, but finding great managing directors, finding great heads of departments, or finding great co-founders to be like, let's all bring you, that's what
because they will attract the right sort of people to you, and that's the thing. So every single person in your business should be evangelising your business to their peer group. And so recruitment for you should technically be easy if you've got the right culture. Because people want their connections to come and work in that business because they're proud of it. They think it's great, and therefore these are the people that will give you access to the wider market.
Okay, so how do we make recruitment easy? So like if someone's listening, they're a service-based business and say they're a small business, so they're between 1 and 5 people. They're probably thinking, why the hell is any great employee, any great candidate going to want to work in my company when they could go and work in all these bigger companies? There's 1 to 5 of us.
Yeah. So working in a big company, and I've worked in some very big companies and PLCs, isn't necessarily better or worse. It depends on what you want out of that role. I took that role specifically because I wanted that large company experience. So what will be attractive to the right person is not necessarily the size of the company, but the individuals within it, and where they think the company can go and where they can go in the company. So that's the thing. If someone thinks, I'll join this company now, and in 5 years' time, I could end up running one of the divisions. Yeah. Or I could even end up doing a management buyout and taking over this business. If they aspire to that, so other people just want to work in their little silo and they just want to do the best work possible. Yeah. And they don't want politics and they don't care about company health care schemes and yada bike to work schemes and things like that. For them, it's around the quality of the clients and it's around the quality of the people that are around them. So some of the most successful consultancy companies in the world are the smallest ones. Okay, so you've got the massive ones like the Accentures, but actually then you've got the strategy houses like Boston Consulting Group, which are less than 1/10 of the size, but people want to work there because that's the cachet brand. That's where the think tank is. That's where the collective brains are. Yeah. So it's all around creating the right products and the right client set to attract the right people. Okay, so you're saying about attracting the right talent, and you talked about values and like those personality attributes that's going to draw people in. And it's not just the wage; it's like what clients they're going to be working with, what's the relationship like, and finding the person that. I think definitely when I talk to a lot of SME or micro business owners, there is that kind of like, well, I'm not a big business, I'm not attractive. But realizing that there's people that want to come and join a small, scrappy startup. And so like in Pink Panda, as an example, the web person was looking to hire. The way that I did that was putting the job posts out and everything on Indeed. And I looked in my garden company. I think I did it the wrong way around. I tried to paint this rosy picture. So it was a big vision of what the future is and what my idea of the world could look like. People come along, but then the problem was they were like, this sounds amazing. I love it. They join, and in reality they're working in the garden company, and I'm running a scrappy startup. So then within a month they're like, this sucks. You suck. I hate you. So what I've done with Pink Panda, so like on this web-based person I'm hiring, I've done the opposite. So I've said, like, first off, here's what sucks. And it's just a list of things that suck about me. And be like, if you're still reading this, then you might be the person I'm looking for, because you can put up with that.
And then through that, rather than saying like, send your CV, let's talk whatever, I've just said, here's a challenge. And go on the Pink Panda website, obliterate it. Write up like the ideas of what you would change about, like, tell me what sucks. Go ham. Tell me what sucks, and then tell me what you would change and why you would change it. And I tell you what, that got something like 15 different applicants come through within a week.
Yeah.
And they were all like full descriptions. Like they all went in, and then they got another challenge that said, okay, well, thanks for doing the challenge. Your next challenge is, this is what Pink Panda is going to do. We're building a retainer service. This is the team. We gave them the team structure. You're responsible for these tasks. Here's what this person's responsible for. Give us the checklist that you want from the client to do the work as best as you can, and from your fellow team members. What do you need from your team and client to do the best possible work you can? Give us the checklist. All of them that filled out the first challenge, all of them did the second challenge.
Yeah.
And then from that, it was, you've gone through to the next stage, fill out a questionnaire, a quick multiple choice questionnaire, and that was just all around what do they want from a career? Like what type of culture do you want to be in? What money do you want to earn? Yep. What would your day-to-day look like? How do you stay up to date with the industry? All these kinds of things. And then from that questionnaire would then be, let's do a video call. And then, but that's when I first speak to them. That's when I meet them. So I don't speak to them at all before that. It's my VA or hiring assistant that's dealing with all of that, and it's just a few quick emails. But the marketing manager BDM, I put out a challenge on Indeed. We didn't really get a response. I don't know if it's because just the algorithm of like you put a free job out of that and they're never going to push the second one. But that only got 4 applicants that didn't do the challenge at all. And I'm trying to think what the challenge was. It wasn't as good, but it was like, I can't remember. But I know it wasn't as good. And when I think of bringing on my marketing manager and BDM, so my question is, 1, what did you think of my web strategy for hiring that person? And 2, bringing on my marketing manager and the BDM. So I'm open to like, if they want to have equity one day, if they want to become the managing director, if they just want to become a manager and then there's other managers and then the managing director on top of them. I'm open to any of these things. How would you manage that relationship? So question 1, what do you think of my web idea for hiring the person and all the challenges? What do you think of that?
So I think that's great, and because it targets a creative audience, right? Which is why it didn't work with BDM, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Because BDMs aren't creative.
Yeah. I can't think what the challenge was. I wasn't trying to be as creative,
but it attracts a creative mindset, and it shows an openness to criticism and things like that those guys will enjoy because they're going to be working on creative projects that are going to get challenged internally. So I think that's a great way to do it. On the BDM side, as I say, they're very process. What do BDMs care about? Does your product suck, or can they sell it? Right? There's no point being a vacuum cleaner salesman if you've got a crap vacuum cleaner to sell. Yeah. Yeah. So they're going to be more attracted to what type of clients you're going after, what your aspirations are in terms of growth and things like that. So it's a much more what I call traditional role, and there's frankly fewer of them looking around because they're well employed where they are. And that's
made me nervous now.
You're hooked. So what you're looking at, well, what you want is someone who is thinking about starting their own business, their own Pink Panda, not quite ready to take that step. That's what you want, and that's what I would target the advertising towards. Thinking of starting your own consultancy, don't. We've got some of the answers. All the answers. We've got some of the answers already. We've got the shell of an idea. We've got clients. We've got product. We're building this. Wouldn't it be better to be part of this small growth business than going out alone? And that's what you want to target.
That kind of scares me though, because it's like, what if they do want to start their own business and they're thinking, I'll come and join you for a year to pick up what I can, and then I'm going to pause the conversation for a moment because I'm going to tell you about one of our sponsors. And actually, this is a really cool story and quite a shocking one, actually. So let's dive into this. IT Manager Services, got talking to Tom. So I want to tell you this story of one of his clients that was an accountancy franchise, that it turned out that their cyber security insurance was actually void because of what their IT provider, their previous one, was doing, or rather not doing. Definitely something that if you're running a business, you want to watch out for. So the problem was they weren't receiving the quality of service that they were expecting or were promised. So when Tom first met them, they were unhappy with their provider, just through certain things such as they were supposed to be getting all of their software and all of their activity backed up. Turns out it wasn't actually being backed up. They were supposed to have all of the servers moved over to the cloud, That hadn't happened. So you can imagine, big problem, they were annoyed, frustrated, hence why they've called Tom in. So getting started with IT Manager Services, Tom just made sure to get on top of everything. Upgraded all the servers to the cloud, made sure everybody had their own license and account for privacy, so I was using Microsoft, but they had to make sure that every single staff member had their own license, so they weren't accessing each other's accounts and emails and whatnot, because the previous company hadn't looked after that, and it was just a key problem that they need to solve, they didn't even realize they had. But also gradually started building more security and automations within their systems that they were using, just to make things more efficient for them. But it was in this part that they actually discovered a key problem was their cybersecurity. Turns out it was actually completely void, because they didn't meet the due diligence of all the requirements of what they need to have in place for their IT. So now, as a result, of course, their cyber insurance is covering them and they're fully compliant with it. They're now way more efficient in their day-to-day practice and procedures just because of the automations that have been put in place on their systems. And this is all something that Tom and the team at IT Manager Services have done for many of their clients. So what I'd recommend, just for peace of mind, give IT Manager Services a call.
And if they do, they do. And if they do, and they then leave, then you failed, because you haven't made the environment consistently attractive enough for them to stay and be part of something. We are, by human nature, crowd people, right? We generally...
Tribal.
Yeah, I mean, there's exceptions to that, but generally we want to be part of something bigger and better. And so if people aren't, and they're setting up their own business, they're doing it because that doesn't fit. They don't see that in existing structures, in existing companies. So why are you independent? Why have you set up Pink Panda compared to working for one of the other agencies, right? And there's a reason for it. But not everyone's got the balls to go and do it and set it up themselves. But if you build it and and it's inclusive enough, people won't leave. Why would you give up being a partner in a business to set up your own business if the first business is being successful and you love the people you work with? Because that makes work so much easier. It's hard setting up a business. Most of them fail. And most people know that.
Yeah, and because you said most people haven't got the balls, but I think it's also a level of insanity. Most people just aren't crazy enough.
No, exactly. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Why would anybody? We should all be working for one of 5 PLCs. Yeah. One doing household goods, one doing chemicals. I mean, that's the reality of it. But there are a few people out there that think they can do it better.
Yeah.
And who'd heard of Facebook 20 years ago? No one, because it didn't exist. Or Google, or any of the others. So everyone thought Bezos was nuts, setting up a bookshop when bookshops were closing. But look at what Amazon is today.
Far beyond books.
Yeah.
And because when I think of why did I start a business, and it's pretty much because I fell into it. It wasn't even, I never, now when I look back on my personality and my attributes growing up, I'm like, no, it makes a lot of sense, because you gave me the box of rules and I was just like, well, bollocks to that. I'm never accepting that. Literally, give me the boundary, whatever the boundary is, and I'm just going to deliberately push it, just a bit, and then push beyond it and see where I can go. And falling into business, it was a case of, I had work. I ended up being self-employed just because I picked up some casual work with someone. They were like, yeah, to do this, you've got to be self-employed. And I was like, what does that mean? And over time, I was trying to find more work and couldn't. I want to work for people. And I started to look at how the person that I was working for wasn't getting enough work in, so I was having less and less work. And I thought, there's got to be a way to solve and that's something else. I've always been solutions focused. There's always a solution. I don't care what the problem is, as long I've got the laws of physics. Otherwise, there's I work within that, and the laws of the land. Yeah. And I ended up starting my own business. I couldn't get a job. No one would hire me, so I just went and started on my own.
Yeah, well, why not? And that's it. And some people are just naturally geared that way. Some people aren't. Some people are always geared to be the number 2, right? Behind every great number 1, behind every Gates, Jobs, whatever, there's a number 2. Who actually does the bulk of it, the heavy lifting.
Definitely. So what businesses get in wrong when they hire and onboard, do you think, and manage their people?
So on the business development side, they just take successful salespeople.
Yeah.
And just because someone was successful in company A doesn't mean they're going to be successful in company B, because at the end of the day, it comes down to how good your product is.
Yeah.
They hire fireworks.
Hire fireworks?
Yeah. So a firework, and this is often in sales more than anything else, a firework is an absolute star in the team, right? They set off, hey, won a big deal, bang, and then they disappear. because they can only do it once, or they've gone off somewhere else, something like that, which is more disruptive to your team than a plodder who's just regularly bringing in revenue and new clients. So they hire people like that. They lie about their own culture and their values. They present a front. And if you go back to like the first days of Big Brother, how many days into the Big Brother house was it before people's true characters started to emerge? And in business, you can stretch that out quite a lot because people aren't there 24/7. But same thing. That's why it's so important that you're honest about what you are and how you want to do your business. So you get that, people leave, and the cultural misalignment. They go too big too soon.
Okay. I feel like that dilutes culture very quickly. Like
it can do, and that's the trouble. You win a big deal, and you bring in loads of people to service that deal, and then it just all gets a little bit mushy around the edges. So you need to have a strategic plan. You've got that, right? You've already talked to me about it in the past. Around you've got your org charts. You know what you want the business to look like. You're filling in boxes. You're not just hiring on a whim. So a lot of people do that. They say, "Well, that's a good idea. Yeah, we'll bring that person in because they're really good at that, or they're really good at that." But there was never any strategic thought around it, and they run out of runway. And that's most small business startups run out of runway. That's why they collapse. You need 3 to 6 months money in the bank to run a good startup, because then you can take good tactical decisions, not reactive decisions to cover the bills, because that's a downward death spiral. So knowing what resources you're going to need before you start the business is probably the most important thought process you need to go through. Just how long can I survive without any revenue coming in? And that's what most people don't think. So people set up their cupcake school. They think, "Oh, we'll set up this cupcake shop. We'll cook loads of cupcakes, and then we'll sell them, and it'll be easy." And then the price of flour goes up. Then the price of electricity goes up. But they can't change the price of the cupcakes because someone set up another cupcake store 2 doors down. So they don't think long term, and the investments that they need to make along the way.
What about operational stuff? So I'm thinking like trades businesses, and they're hiring people on the tools. What do you think are the mistakes people are making there?
I think if you've got a very fluid workforce, it's very difficult to maintain growth in a steady manner. Trades, taxi companies. I was meeting with a taxi company this morning, funnily enough, and their biggest challenge is driver turnover.
A lot of gig work.
Yeah, exactly that. And people are in that economy because that's what they like. And there's no real loyalty there. So that's how you've got to really build in brand loyalty.
It's built on convenience, come and go as you please. Sort of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
It's hard for retention.
Yeah, it is. And you've got to be clear when people are coming in as well as to what they want to do and where they want to be. Are they going to want to go travelling for a year in New Zealand at some point?
Yeah.
Factor that into your hiring decision. You need to be open and honest with them. They need to be open and honest with you.
Interesting. So like, the more I think about this, the more I think about hiring and putting my energy towards it. Like when I consult with businesses on their marketing stuff, I talk about their vision, their mission, core values and such. And businesses generally just don't have them. And I mean, Pink Panda has a mission, but not a vision. And it's more of like my life has a vision rather than Pink Panda. But I'm kind of like, maybe I should just make the vision of Pink Panda what I want the world to be anyway. And that's my personal thing. And it just...
Well, that's going to be the easiest to stick to, isn't it?
And I feel like the more I think about hiring, the more your hiring process wants to be focused on like, here's what I want for the world and here's what I want it to look like and what this company is. And if you like the sound of that, then we can talk about what the actual day-to-day tasks are. If you don't like the sound of that, there's no point. Rather than going, right, here's the day-to-day task. Oh, by the way, I kind of like the idea of this vision. Whereas I feel like the more I think about this is, don't even worry about what they're going to be doing. But that's why I have the questionnaire, as I said. Like, I want to know what their vision is.
Yeah, and
what they want.
And that's got to align. You want to attract the right sort of people. So McKinsey always used to hire swans, right? Smart, work hard, ambitious, and nice. Yeah, they were their criteria.
Yeah.
Any of the good strategy houses would always hire people that not only had a great academic portfolio or a great commercial portfolio, but they also played basketball every weekend. There was something else. They were a rounded personality and a rounded character. And you want people that are aligned with you. It's as simple as that. Because then you're not going to lose them.
Yeah.
You're not going to falling out. And clients will see that consistency as well. So a firm should have a very distinct culture that a client can see. And I think that's really important in marketing as well, particularly. Because in marketing, clients want marketing companies that also align with their vision. Yeah, and their values, because they believe they think that will amplify their marketing message. Partnering with that sort of firm.
I agree, and I think it's the people to people, like person to person. If you get along with them, and if you feel there's that, not to be friends, but just as in you've got to be able to spend time with someone and feel good for that interaction, but also your just values in life and.
Well, price is about 15% of the decision-making process of any product and service. Most of it is around the connection and around the people.
Yeah, definitely. Well, comparing, especially when it comes to marketing, because like in my garden company, generally it's very understandable. People go, garden needs looking after, find gardener, go get prices in. And then there is that value in the relationship. But in marketing, people aren't necessarily going, like when I meet a lot of people and the things that the problems I help them solve or whatever, they're not going to the market like I specifically want a service for this. It's more a case of through my communication they discover and they think, actually you sound like you could be quite helpful. And
but I would argue that commoditized pricing model fits in any business. So in gardening, yes, there are people that are going out and I want to pay £15 an hour for a gardener. So get some quotes in from firms. But there's gardeners earning £50 an hour. Why? Personal trainers. You can pay £40 an hour. You can pay £200 an hour.
Yeah.
£2,000 an hour. Why? Because that personal trainer has a particular brand or set of values.
Yeah.
And it's the same in marketing as well. So prices shouldn't be the decision-making factor. If you're in the commoditized end of the market, well, you're in the wrong part of the market because that's a very transactional, right, we should do some marketing. We need someone to revise our website or do some SEO or whatever it is. And that's not the value-add service that you want to be offering, as I understand it from Pink Panda. And this is true for any company out there. If you're going to offer bog standard service, there's nothing wrong with that, right? There is a place in the market in every industry for a standard product that's competitively priced. But if you're aspiring to be something different, the price is irrelevant, right? Because it only becomes relevant where what the value return is from your service. So it doesn't matter if you're 10 times as expensive as your competitor, if you're going to bring in 10 times the amount of money.
Yeah, exactly. And I try and focus my pricing more on like what are they trying to achieve? Well, the price that you're paying is a tiny fraction compared to that. Yeah. And a little thing I like to do on pricing when people, I definitely like when I have conversations with business owners and they kind of say like, I can't do this with my prices because my competitors, whatever, that I'm barricaded by that, and the go-to in the market is this price. And I always have this little comeback to them where I say, how much is a t-shirt? And most people will be like, I'll be like, how much is a t-shirt? And they'll be like, 20 quid, 30 quid. Some might say 50. And I'm like, all right, go tell Gucci that.
Yeah.
And then suddenly everyone's like, oh yeah.
Exactly. It's no better quality. A Rolex watch is no better quality than a Seiko watch. But look at the relative values. So it's everything should be around the proposition, not the price.
Okay, next topic. So in Pink Panda, appreciate I'm just kind of like, on this, I'm now just going into Pink Panda stories. I always like to explore stories, but...
that's fine, I'll send my consulting invoice later, it's all good. I'm on an hourly rate, it's fine.
I'll talk faster. You talk about like when you've got involved in businesses, whether it's non-exec or buying out and taking an equity stake. So I had an offer from someone recently that said, they asked, am I looking for an investor? And I was like, I haven't really thought about it. And they're like, well, I've known you for years. I like the relationship and we get along and I like what you're trying to do. So do you need money for it? And I'm like, oh. And when I think of like what I'm doing with Pink Panda right now, the kind of debate I have in my mind is, well, I'm building this retainer service and I'm building this team. And it's like the security and the safety of having that runway extended and even thinking with the BDM market manager and going, with investment today, I could actually just employ them full time now. And I haven't got to wait till next year. And then how much more work could we do? But then I think like, but the company right now is not worth anything really. Like
the company's not worth anything. The idea is. And why wear a horsehair shirt when you don't need to?
Why wear a horsehair shirt when you don't need to?
Someone wants to buy you a nice silk shirt to wear. Why wear the horsehair one? Because that's what you can afford.
Yeah. All right, okay.
So, again, if the investor is culturally aligned, if their expectations are aligned with your expectations, if they see the business in the same light in 12 months and 3 years as you do, why not?
Yeah. Do you know what I've realised? Because when I had my garden company, I still have it, but I owned 100% of it, and I was like, going through that and everything, afterwards, or I say afterwards, but after the kind of, when I finally got to a point where it was smooth sailing, and now it's kind of, it just stabilises and runs itself. But going through that whole debacle and getting to a point where I finally got it to a point where it was smooth, I was like, I am never been a solo founder again. Never. I always want to do it with people. And then I started Pink Panda, and I'm a solo founder again. And I always think, like, I don't want to be the solo founder. I don't want to own 100% of this. And then I've got another company as well where I, similar to you, like started as a customer and then started working with them and then ended up with a retainer, working with them on their marketing and operational strategy. And then it became an equity deal as well. So then I became a director in the company. And like that, I've just get involved with the bits that I'm good at and don't think about the stuff that I'm not. Yep. And that works really great. But then it comes to Pink Panda, I'm like, yeah, but that's like my main baby that I'm working on. The garden company no longer is. I'm about to give equity away in that. But Pink Panda's my main baby where I'm like, my ego needs to let go, or I don't even think it's ego. I think it's just this fear of like, this is my stable. It's like having a job when you're employed, and you're like, this is my.
Yeah, but you're not handing up control, are you?
No,
you're not giving someone 51%.
Yeah.
And the quicker you divest equity to your team, the more locked in they become.
I agree.
And you can still be the majority shareholder, which means that the entire team would have to gang up on you to say, no, we're not doing that. And if they're doing that, you've got bigger problems, mate.
Yeah.
Right? If that's the situation,
they would have done
and you're facing boardroom challenges, you've got a bigger problem.
Yeah.
And I'm a great believer in giving people equity and giving them skin in the game. As I say, it's a great retention tool. It gives them a real voice, and it gives them real involvement. And people appreciate that.
Okay, so if you built a team of 12 people in your company, and so that would be like all 12 of them, you like the idea that all 12 would have some form of equity?
Yeah, but you can have an A and B shares, can't you? You can have voting shares and non-voting shares. So you can give A shares to those that you think are going to be with you for the whole journey.
A players, yeah. Oh, A shares, A players, yeah.
And then you have B shares that are non-voting, but in the event of a transaction where more than 50% of the company is sold, their shares vest. They're free, right? That's just the only cost of that is setting the scheme up.
Yeah.
But it does very well. I mean, in the venture capital startup that I was involved in, I very quickly, within 2 years, accumulated tens of thousands of pounds worth of shares.
Okay.
That only came when we did the deal with the private equity, and almost everyone in the company had that, and they grew from 0 to 70 million in 7 years, with hardly 70 million in 7 years, with hardly any staff turnover, and almost no turnover in the manager group. Basically, the only people that got turned over are people that weren't good enough, and the reason for that was because everyone was heading for this one goal in 7 years' time. We knew we were going to sell out to a PE firm, and take our money, and that everyone then went off, separated, and set up their own businesses using their ill-gotten gains. So it's an amazingly powerful tool, equity. And then people can say, they get down the pub, they're talking about, yeah, I'm an owner in this business. How good's that? And I haven't had to invest a penny, just my hard work.
Yeah, and your hard work pays off.
Yeah.
And the more hard work you do, the more. Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That does make a lot of sense. And because like I've debated that, and then it's just the fear of, but it does tie people in as well. And when I think of like my friends,
what's the fear? That they're going to take control.
Oh, this is therapy now. I don't know.
And take your baby away from you, because if they are, there's a reason, right? There's a reason why social services step in. Yeah, you've got bigger problems if that's the case.
What is the fear? What is the fear that I have giving it? I think I have a fear of doing it right and not doing it wrong, which is just speak to your accountants and your solicitors.
Yeah, well, yes, you take professional legal advice on that, and you get things set up properly. And it's sweat equity at the end of the day. If you achieve these goals, you will get X number of shares.
And it comes back to that, what would you prefer, 100% of a business doing 20 grand a year, or, well, in my case, what would I rather, 100% of a business doing that, or would I rather to have 55% of a company doing millions?
Half my employees would have left me years ago, because I'm a bastard, if I hadn't equitised them.
Yeah.
But it glued them in.
Yeah.
And they appreciated it in the long run.
Okay, can you share how that works for you? So someone, day one, they start as a new employee, and they're on probation for 3 months, 6 months or something.
Yep.
So how does that journey grow for them?
So I lay it out from day one. Right.
Yep.
Here are your goals for these 12 months.
Yeah.
Here are my expectations. And this is where you could get in 5 years. Because it's a multiplier, right? So they're not coming as a shareholder from day one. They'll need to achieve certain milestones, and that might be revenue, or it might be product, or it might, whatever it is. Yeah. And when they reach those key milestones, they get equitized accordingly. Simple as that.
Okay.
So they know where they're going. They know what they want to do. If they don't want to do that, they don't have to. Right? Don't force anybody into it. Some people don't want that.
Yeah.
But it gives them the options, and it gives them a roadmap, and it gives them progression. And then there's no bullshit about it. It's not so many companies. They have loads of people working for them. I'm going to give you some equity. When I retire, you can take over the firm. It's all just handshakes and smoke and mirrors and nonsense, right? Lay it down. Contractually lay it down.
Okay.
Because if they've achieved their goal, well, you've achieved your goal, right? By default. If you set the goal right.
Yeah, and I think because that could work perfectly because like when I think of Pink Panda and the structure, and like any business I have in the future, is give everyone a living wage. So it's like here's your base, and then make it all performance pay, and then you can apply the same thing to equity. Is right. Here's your base, here's your performance pay, and if you go above that, here's your equity scheme.
Car dealers have done it for years, right? It's the worst paid job in the world. Being a car salesman, unless you sell cars.
Yeah.
Then you can make a fortune.
Yeah.
it's literally that.
Yeah. Okay, so like, I want to try and translate it. So if someone's listening and thinking, this sounds really good, I like the idea of it, but how does it actually work? So someone comes on board, you give them the roadmap that's like, here's over the next 12 months, and that can translate into this over 5 years. So is it something where, like, at what point would you say you can earn equity? Is it like 6 months, 12 months, or?
I would say for someone coming in for the first time,
Yeah.
it's probably 12 months before they earn equity. And you could even do it as a conversion rate. So you could do it, you've got cash or you can have equity. So at the end of the year, my intention is to give you a bonus between 10 and 20%, depending on your performance. If you want, you can invest part of that bonus in shares.
Yeah.
If you don't want to, you can take the cash. And that then works for existing employees as well. So you to come into a business, and I've come into business before where employees have been there for many more years than I have, and they've got no equity. So, well, look, you'd earned a bonus last year of £40,000. What would you think if I gave you the opportunity to invest a quarter of your bonus each year in equity? So then you start getting dividends.
Yes.
And that's the thing. And some people take it and some people don't. Simple as that. So you can use that model. It's all around setting the right goal. If you achieve X, we will give you Y. Simple as.
And then have you got kind of a limit where you say, because like as someone that's never done that, when it comes to giving, like I think with the marketing manager BDM that I want to bring on board, that makes complete sense. Like, here's what I want you to do, achieve this, achieve that, here's your performance bonus, and then you can take that money and it can acquire equity. But then having someone that could use, in that example, 40 grand bonus, do you want to use 25% to buy equity, is then you've got to have a constant valuation updated, or an annual valuation on the business updated, which I take it is then done with your accountants, solicitors and such. And
there's different ways to do that. I mean, in the early days of a business, it's basically your net asset value, right? Until you've got some brand equity, and then you can apply multipliers to it.
yeah.
So you just take your profit and multiply it, particularly by annuity clients that come back and back time and time again. But no, there is no limit to it. I'd quite happily be sitting here with 1% of Amazon if I'd thought of the idea in the first place.
I agree.
So no, there should be no limit to it.
Okay, so you would be happy for your employees to end up becoming the majority shareholder?
Yeah, because I would have earned my way out of that, right? So
Yeah.
by not giving them that £20,000 bonus, I've saved myself £20,000 worth of dividend, effectively. Yeah, so so I've saved all those years while they've been cashing in their cash. Instead of taking the cash out of the business, they've invested it into equity. Great, fantastic. Yeah. That's free money for me.
Yeah.
So it's how you want to look at it long term. But yeah, I'll quite happily sit back and sit on 5% of a business that's suddenly turned into a £10 million business that's now being run by a team I'd built. That I don't have to get involved in, just turn up at the Christmas party and hand out the staff awards. Happy days.
Thank you very much for doing all of this.
Yeah, exactly.
See, I completely agree with that, and I would, and I will do that. But I think, in my mind, I've always got the one business that's my baby that I'm working on. It was my garden company when it was that, and it's Pink Panda right now.
Yeah, but you're going to get bored of that, right?
Oh yeah, in like a few years' time. Like I know what the next company is, because that's why I want to build the org chart and build the team.
Yeah, exactly.
So it makes complete sense
So
to have people
so you might
incentivized.
as well start handing it over now, because it's going that way anyway, and you'll get better people as a result of it.
Yeah, that's
the
very
thing.
true.
This is why people that would be setting up their own business would be attractive to Pink Panda, because they can effectively set up their own business and become equity partners. This is why I like the partnership model so much,
Yeah.
because it gives people a sense of belonging.
Yeah. Okay. Has these ideas and like performance pay schemes or equity schemes, has it ever backfired for you where you think, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that?
Oh, you always get people there that they go off the boil and they've already earned some equity and you have to buy them out or whatever. But that's just business at the end of the day, right? People change. The employee doesn't stay the same. 10 years later, they're a completely different person with different values, different life choices, all the rest of it. So, yeah, you run that risk. But if you've diluted enough to enough people, that gets buffeted, right? If it's the problem comes when it's just one other person, right? So you've got a founder and a co-founder. And there's a very tight relationship in terms of the size of equity between the two, and then they have a falling out. Because it's just like a marriage, right? Marriages fail, and business marriages fail as well, in just the same way. So when it's diluted across 5, 6, 7 people, one person blowing up doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't impact it. Dilutes the explosion.
So now when I think about all of that, is more like the market manager BDM, rather than have them like an investor necessarily, I'm thinking more have them, but just give them equity targets. And so they, rather than take an investor.
Have both.
Well, I'll have both, yeah.
Then you've got the choice, right? And you can say to the marketing manager, look, I've got this investor. He's provided us with the runway. Makes it an even more attractive proposition to you to come on and build your team, because we can afford to do it from day one.
That does make sense. And like, I think I'm clear on what I want the company to look like. So in like 3 years, this is the smallest I want it to look like with 12 people. Like I would love it to become a medium-sized business and have sort of a team of 50 or more, and there's a C-suite and I'm part of that. But it's just I've built an org chart to that, because I think to me it seems a bit redundant to build it at 50 people when there's a couple of like me full-time and then a few freelancers. So to me, I'm like, yeah, this is what I want it to look like. The people that make that happen. And I think like, yeah, I want to have more than 50% of that. But then if we can get it to 50 people and map out what that looks like, it'd probably be me working with people to map that out. And I'm like, I don't know, what percentage of that company would I want? And they're like, well, by the time, if it's looking like that, I'm working on other companies that are doing the same thing. And
When it starts looking like the London Underground map, it doesn't really matter anymore.
yeah. I like that analogy. I love the idea of that, of like, so, because have I told you about my plan? Yeah, so like build Pink Panda as the marketing system and then build out, spoiler to the listener, build out these, so the next company I want to build is a VA company that's all your back-end systems, and then working, how can we be as efficient as possible for all the back-end systems of managing your clients and partners and what suppliers and such. And so with that, like I'm scouting now to just think, who would I start that with? I just want to find a group of like 3, 4, 5 of us where I'm like, oh, this is all the skill sets we need. Let's start it. I know the system I want, and it's just bringing the people together to orchestrate that. And then there's other companies. So I think, like, I just want to get to a point where I'm building those out, and then it becomes a group, and it's like that. The directors of those companies will probably become like, it's a bit like the like Musk with his empire of businesses. What do I call it? The Muskology or something.
Yeah.
And so like Tesla engineers will be at SpaceX at one point, and then SpaceX invents a new material. And so like in Tesla's car batteries, what fuses all the cells together is a material invented by SpaceX that doesn't exist until SpaceX invented it. But then, and then you've got all kinds of things happening between.
It becomes an ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all feeding off of each other. Like kind of tree roots all kind of then starting to go into one another and support each other. Or
Absolutely.
London Underground map.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. So then I feel like I need to focus on the people that can make that happen, and just be like, here's equity.
Yeah.
Well, it's done in a manageable way that manages the relationship.
Yeah. That's the core of it. Because without those people, you won't get anywhere.
So why are you doing all of this? Why are you building businesses?
I love it. I love a challenge, and I love things that have gone wrong, and seeing, because I just have this skill to be able to look at a business and go, right, well, that's where the major potholes are. Let's fill them in first.
Yeah.
We'll worry about rebuilding the road another time, right? For now, let's just get this thing moving, get it trucking. And I just love that challenge. As I say, I'm pretty crap at steady state. When things are successful, I get bored very, very easily.
Yeah.
I always need that constant challenge. And so I'm always working, right? I work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But I haven't worked a day in the last 7 years. Because it's not work to me, right? It's I love doing it. So it's my hobby. And even if I had billions in the bank, I'd be doing the same thing. And it would be with small companies as well. It wouldn't be buying bigger companies. I've got no real interest in that. It would be small and medium-sized enterprises. Because then you get to meet a different range of people with different views, different values, different products, different ideas. And if you help them monetize that and help them be successful, well, that's reward in itself, right? I remember my first boss in the private sector when I left the Navy. And I was chatting to him and I said, so what's your greatest achievement? And he goes, well, I think I've made about 17 millionaires in business from people that he'd brought on as newbies and trained them up. And he saw that as a greater measure of his success and his professional success than actually the money he had earned himself.
What's your biggest success?
Well, got this far and I'm still alive and still breathing every morning. At the end of the day. I don't have a biggest. Everything's been successful in a different way. Like, there's been failures along the way. As part of success, you have to fail to succeed, right? But I don't think there's one particular one I'll hang my hat on. I can't think of a single company where I haven't enjoyed it because I've learned something. Even if it's been rubbish. I mean, I took over one company once. The managing partner who owned most of the company said, oh yeah, we're great, we've got all these clients, da, da, da. Got in there day one, they were hemorrhaging cash. Their biggest client had stopped doing any work with them. And he'd gone off to Thailand to sail around on his yacht. And it was like, well, we can either shutter it or turn it round. So we did pretty drastic action, turned it around. And of course, obviously, once it was plain sailing again, he suddenly popped back up again and wanted to be part of it again. I'm like, well, there you go. So yeah, there's not a single thing. There's lots and lots of little things.
All compounded together and made for a fun life by the sounds of it.
Well, exactly. I can't complain. I've had a great life. Some people say I'm lucky. I'm not lucky. I just work bloody hard, even though it doesn't look like it to most people. I'm always thinking. My work's done up here, right? Not with my hands. I'm terrible at arts and crafts. So I'm always thinking and ideas will come to me on 2 or 3 different businesses on a particular day. So it'd be an idea for the radio station, or an idea for the technology business, or an idea for a client. And I'm always, that process is ongoing. So always working. And the harder you work, the luckier you get. As, I can't remember who said that famous quote, but he's absolutely right. The harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I've got to a point, like now, most of my day, I just feel like this isn't working. Like, my friends have started to take the piss that I don't actually work. Because it's just kind of having fun.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't see it. Yeah.
And I've got full control of my time to kind of flex it around what I want to do. If I want to go to the gym, if my mate calls me up and he's like, oh, I'm free, I've got a day off, do you want to go and hang out? I'm like, yeah, I can move things around. Yeah. Sounds great. And I have a lot of flexibility, but I have a lot of insecurity around that, and I find that my mind's hard to adjust because in the garden company, it was like every day. Like I started off on the tools, like
more
constantly
quantifiable, isn't it? It's easier. It's there's a certain number of hours, certain number of tasks,
and as well, like just in terms of money I make. Like now, the activity I do to make money makes far more money than when I was doing that. But in my head, I'm just like, because I could do a couple hours
certain,
work,
isn't it?
Yeah,
it's less. Let's face it, in the garden company, when you've got a client, unless you drive a lawnmower into their shed, you've got a client, right?
Yeah,
it's predictable revenue.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm turning Pink Panda into, but
yeah, and that's great, and that's if you can get that model going, it takes the pressure off. But yeah, the idea is that you don't look like you're working, and that's if you can get success and not work. Well, perfect, right? Something's working then.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Been a pleasure.
Thank you for coming to Dragon. Hopefully you've enjoyed your experience at Dragon.
Absolutely amazing. Lovely.
Right, I've got a closing tradition. Every guest gets the same question. What is something that exists within the world today you hope will one day be eradicated?
Greed.
Greed.
You don't need to be greedy to enjoy an amazing life.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, James.
Pleasure.
Ah, perfect. This conversation has been brought to you and produced by Pink Panda Productions, where we make marketing for purpose, that purpose, build your business. How effective is your marketing? Don't know? Want to know? Take our 2-minute quiz and find out exactly how effective your marketing is at drawing in your ideal client, your ideal team member, and your ideal partner, so that you can stop wasting so much time interviewing candidates that just aren't quite the right fit, stop wasting so much time meeting with prospects that aren't ready or aren't right for your business, and find great partnerships to help build your business with other businesses. So take the 2-minute marketing quiz to find out how effective your marketing is. Look in the link in the description to take your quiz and get your score.